All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for their daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere.
And we welcome you guys to another episode of Fan Response. It is a mad world indeed, guys. That is Mad World by Gary Jules and Michael Andrews because NCAA college football is now canceled at all levels. Big Ten, Pac 12, the two most recent conferences to announce closures. SEC still holding out, and Big 12 is very optimistic still about a season, but I don't suspect there to be any college football season. Division Two and Division Three have already canceled their seasons, so very, very sad news. But before we get into the sad news, I do have some happy news right now. We do have Freddie on today joining us. Freddie, how you doing?
Yo. What's up, you guys? Just ready to talk sports. I'm fired up
Yeah,
about
for
this
sure, man.
episode.
I'm fired up as well, man. And we got Ryan coming back with us today. First time in about 2 or 3 weeks. He's been busy with his full-time job in CPA. How's it going, man?
It's going well. I'm getting into the flow of things, so I should be back on a weekly basis going forward. But to your point on college football, I'm the only one not wearing black right now because honestly, it's a funeral for the Big Ten and the Pac-12, and most likely college football in general. I just wish I could have come back on a show with a happier opening, like more positive vibes in the beginning of the episode. But as it stands right now, I mean, we have no football. I mean, I'm wearing an Ohio State jersey right now. I'm a huge Ohio State fan, and to know that there's a chance that we may not have any Ohio State football, it's honestly so sad. And not but the thing we have to realize is we can feel sad all we want, but we really have to feel for like the players, the seniors who this was their last year of eligibility to play the game they love and the game they gave everything to for their almost their entire lives. And then the select few players who senior year could have really dictated, their NFL future, because a senior year could be the difference between a guy going in like the seventh and sixth round, where if you make the slightest of errors during training camp, you're cut, never to be signed again, and going in like the third or second rounds, which is much more forgiving and gives you a chance to have a long NFL career. So this is going to affect the livelihoods of a select few and just take away the passion of so many others. It's going to take away their passion that they put their whole lives into. So we really have to feel for the athletes and their families because this is a absolutely devastating blow.
Yeah, an absolutely devastating blow as Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields join in with the players and what Callan McClurg mentioned in his shows. This is the first time we've seen an organized effort by the players to really speak out for what they want. College players, that is. And so definitely, feel sympathy for some of those players who wanted to boost their draft stock or just enjoy playing the game. But I want to go to Freddie. Freddie, what are your initial reactions to the Big Ten and Pac 12 officially canceling their fall college football seasons?
Like Ron was saying, COVID-19 and took a lot of things away from a lot of people. Not just sports. Just real lives. Jobs and stuff like that. And unfortunately, it's taken away sports for a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of kids that's not going to be able to just go play the sport that they love to play. It's not going to be able to time where us fans be able to watch the sport that we love to watch. But honestly, I mean, even though I hate that, the sport that I like is being taken away due to COVID-19, it's probably for the best, I mean, this COVID, stuff, when it first happened, I had my thoughts on it at first, but, honestly, it's starting to, spread. It's starting to get worse. And maybe it's just a thought in some people's minds need to come together and say, hey, what's more important, me playing football or me saving my life by me not catching COVID or something like that. So, I mean, just my hope that this COVID-19 goes away real soon, where we can come back to somewhat of a normal life, where we can have fans come back to arenas. I mean, it's just weird not to have a lot of the sports, baseball, the way it's happening over there. I mean, just all over. You know, just you watch the NBA bubble. Not used to Kyle Kuzma hitting a three last night, and there's no fans to cheer him on. I mean, it's just really strange right now. And I just hopefully that the earthly leaders on this earth can get this COVID situation under control or things can come back to normal. But I definitely think it should be. I don't know if it should be canceled, but maybe paused until a further date to see if we can beat COVID in the near future, then resume. But I don't know.
Yeah, this is definitely a very, very tough situation. And my initial reaction to the news was, while we have to feel sympathy for the fans and the players that wanted to themselves go out and play college football, because it'd be one thing if it's the fans wanting college football and the players saying, I don't want to risk my health, right? That would be one thing. But now the players have come out and spoken, several prominent ones, including Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, saying we want college football, and the coaches as well. So you have to feel sympathy for the situation. But at the same time, this gives us a chance to realize that this situation is very, very serious. If you're out there and you're spreading false information that this is the same as the common flu, or this is just going to go away, or this virus is fake, or it's some stupid stuff that, rich a-holes like Jordan Belfort online are saying, is that the fear of the coronavirus is worse than the virus itself. You're part of the problem, man. You have to acknowledge that the virus is very real, and it's just simply more important than sports right now. It really is. If you have the choice between containing the virus and opening up sports again, you have to prioritize the health and safety of all of our citizens first. That is your, fiduciary duty as an athletic organization, as a government. So it's a tough situation, and I feel sympathy for it. But at the same time, I think that it has to stop. We have to get out of here because it's a full contact sport. We've already seen the issues with baseball. The NCAA and the NFL, which we'll get into next, both failed to create a bubble environment. So frankly, there's just not enough of a safety net to have football seasons in the fall. I think postponing it in the spring is the correct decision. And then to all the fans out there, I've seen a couple of college groups where they're just bashing people who are bringing up that this pandemic is more dangerous than we think, that we have to be serious about it. To those people, you have to establish a life outside of sports too. I understand we all love talking about sports and we all love watching it, but this is also a time to bond with your family, to develop new skills. Maybe you can learn something new. Check out a couple of movies and TV series. But the most important thing is you have to keep yourself safe right now. And like sports, at the end of the day, for many of us, it's a hobby. We can't prioritize a hobby over the health and the well-being of millions of Americans.
I completely agree with everything you said, but I do want to say one thing. Since college football is being canceled, I want to see leadership, and by that is all the Big Ten schools and Pac-12 schools should not allow students on campus. If it's too dangerous to have players playing football, then how can you possibly justify students being packed into college dorms like that? That can't be allowed.
That I
So
don't
they
understand.
you would not. So you not one of those schools should have students on campus packed into dorms, because that could easily contribute to the spread of the virus. And I want responsibility. Yes, the COVID pandemic is absolutely horrid, and I completely understand that, but this has devastated athletes and their families. I would just like the presidents that voted to cancel the season to come out and make their votes public. And that's all I ask. I understand why they did it. I just want accountability on the terms of the presidents who voted no. So that's what I really want to see going forward. I want to see dorms shut down, because honestly, you can't have that. If football is deemed too dangerous, you have to apply it across your entire school. And then honestly, just make the votes public, just so accountability can be taken. We just need leadership going forward.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Ryan. I think that right now we're in a situation where we have to we have to prioritize the safety of everyone. It's not just about protecting the athletes. It's not just about containing the spread within the athletic realm, right? If the athletes aren't safe enough to go out there and play, who are you, you know, as part of like some of these Ohio universities and other universities to tell the students to come to classes and risk their lives? I think we have to put the priority equally on everyone's shoulders and to protect everyone equally. But with that being said, guys, now that college football is canceled, there's a lot of questions about other fall sports. We know that the other college fall sports are likely to be impacted and potentially canceled. But one big topic is the NFL. And I want to get your takes, Ryan, on the NFL. Will we have a season this year or not?
I believe we will. I think the NFL will do what baseball is doing and just kind of push ahead. They will probably definitely run into the same problems baseball had. I just hope the NFL has stronger leadership than baseball to where they can develop protocols and strictly enforce them, unlike baseball. So I believe an NFL season can happen. They just need to develop strict protocols and have the leadership to enforce them. Something we haven't seen in baseball. And because of that, we have just gotten various outbreaks that have postponed or canceled various games. So I think the NFL can happen. It'll just need leadership and dedicated protocols that are strictly enforced.
All right, I want to go to Freddie next. Your thoughts on whether or not we're actually going to have an NFL season?
All right, I actually want to respond to Ryan. Ryan, you said one key thing: leadership. When have the NFL shown us and Roger Goodell leadership? I mean, I said once again. I mean, do I believe there'll be a season? Yes, I believe there'll be a season because anytime you have billions of dollars on the line, I mean, they're going to make sure they get their money. But my thing is, hopefully they do everything safe. Hopefully they have the leadership in place where they stick to the plan. Just like the NBA, you have to have Adam Silver has done a wonderful job. He set out the plan. He's working that plan. Then there's no plan B. That's the only thing that got in baseball. There shouldn't have been a plan B. Plan A should have been the number one plan, and plan B should have been, okay, it's over. So hopefully football and Roger Goodell didn't set out a plan where plan A is the plan and plan B, if plan B don't work, then it's over. That's my only concern because, I mean, like I said, we need leadership, like Ryan said. We need somebody who's going to be that leader, who's not afraid to make tough decisions, but also set out where it's safe for everybody to play.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a very, very tough circumstance for the season. So, Freddie, did you say yes or no to having an NFL season?
I believe we will have an NFL season, just because there's too much money on the line, and I don't know if the NFL is willing to risk that much money on the line, honestly.
Yeah, that's a very, very reasonable conclusion. I will actually be the one to disagree with in this panel. I don't think we will have an NFL season. I just think right now, as it is, baseball already has their issues with the outbreak, right? And that's a limited contact sport other than the glove touching the player and your occasional brawls, which have been happening more frequently because of the Astros. There's not as much contact in baseball as football, right? You might have the gear with football, but these guys are up close and personal and they're practically tackling each other every play. And if the baseball's having this kind of issue right now, I just don't see football with, you know, same number of teams, more contact, being able to avoid this kind of situation. So I don't think we're going to have an NFL season. It will most likely have to be postponed to the spring. But even then, guys, I don't even think we're going to have any football in the spring because I don't envision this whole pandemic situation ending by spring 2021. What are your guys' thoughts on the spring possibly being a springboard into the seasons?
Well, I mean, right now it's hard to have this conversation because nobody knows when COVID's going to be gone. It could be gone in the spring. It could be worse. I mean, until COVID is gone, and until not even just say when COVID's gone, but when we find a way to make things to do safe. Because my whole thing is nobody knows when COVID-19 is going to be gone. It can be here for the next 3 to 5 years, and we still got to find a way to make things safe where we can do the things where people are not, contracting the COVID. So I mean, until they can find a plan that's safe for them to play, or two, when COVID's gone. I mean, that's really the only two things that's going to determine if we have a spring season, honestly.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. Right now, as we speak, Shri provided me with some updates at lunch today, and that is right now there are 3 current vaccines in the US that are at the 3rd stage, so they are about 60 to 70% chance of passing. So,
And then on that, I mean, will people trust the vaccine? Because I mean, you don't know.
that's another
Nobody
big
knows
thing.
the side effects of that as well. So, I mean, it's a lot to do with this situation. So until we can be able to find something to slow it down or just get rid of it for good, I mean, it's not going to be football for a good minute. But then you
Right.
said it's a contact sport. Basketball is a contact sport. They rub
But they
against each
created a
other.
bubble environment. Basketball and hockey are both contact sports, right? But they went ahead and created the bubble environment. Right now, the situation football is in is more similar to baseball because both of them failed to create that environment ahead of time in advance.
Right.
That is true, but to come to the NFL's defense for, as of this moment in time, not having a bubble, the amount of personnel that is required for all 32 teams to operate would be basically a whole city. So you'd have to basically get an entire city to be a bubble. It would just, the infrastructure required for an NFL to have a bubble for all 32 teams to play out a full season, I honestly just don't think that's practical. And that's probably why they haven't made any plans to have a bubble, just simply because they probably wouldn't even be able to do it.
And then you mentioned NFL, the FBS college sports have about 128 conference teams and then 2 independents. So that would be very tough to create a bubble as well. I'm not putting blame necessarily on the leagues for not creating the environment, but the fact that there isn't a bubble for either sport spells trouble for their seasons. And like I said, there's 3 vaccines in kind of the final testing phase. So even if those get passed by, which is pretty optimistic, the time that it would be able to get implemented to the players would be about February. They want to resume play in March, but like Freddie said, there's going to be concerns about whether people are going to abide by the vaccines or not. And then, in terms of the general population, right, getting it out to all the, friends and family, that's going to be longer as well. So I just think there's a lot right now riding on this vaccine. And it's just simply because of all the administrative challenges and the environment we're in, it's not going to get solved by March 2021. I'm almost certain of that. So we're going to move on to the next topic right here. We're going to stick with NFL right now. I have a live poll up for all the viewers. Will there be an NFL season? Be sure to vote there below. Right now, we got 67% of people saying no to there being an NFL season. So, assuming we have an NFL season, guys, the Dallas Cowboys are one of the most polarizing teams in the NFL, man. They consistently, underachieve at the most supposed to be clutch moments, the most narrow moments in sports. And they're the accident waiting to happen, as Stephen A says. What are your guys' predictions for their season?
All right, my thoughts on this are I believe the Eagles are a better overall team. I really like the Eagles defense, especially their defensive line. They are pretty good. Secondary still needs a little work, but if you have a good front seven, you can overcome that. But I'm going to predict that the Dallas Cowboys will win their division, and here's why. They say the only constant in life is that there's change. And that applies to the winner of this division because I believe we haven't had a 2-time winner in back-to-back years since like 2004. When one team wins it, another team or when a team wins it this year, they never win it in the following year. And given that the Eagles won it last year, they're basically disqualified until, a team does win it 2 years in a row. So Eagles are disqualified. The Redskins, or not the Washington football team
That's weird to
has,
say.
I'll say, I had to catch myself there. The Washington football team, honestly, their culture is an absolute mess. I love Ron Rivera. He is a top 15, if not top 10 NFL head coach, in my opinion. And I have no doubt that he'll help turn that team around. But as of right now, they've got so many issues. Their roster is just not that great. I don't like their offensive line at all. I don't think they've given Dwayne Haskins enough weapons to truly succeed. And Ron Rivera will just need more time. So Washington's a year or two away from actually competing. And then you have the Giants, the New York Giants. They hired the New England Patriots, assistant special teams coaches or something like that. And name me a Patriots assistant coach that's gone on to do well on another team.
I can't.
Matt Patricia on the Lions, he's been terrible so far. And yeah, you just go down the list. It hasn't gone well. And this guy was a special teams coordinator. Well, yes, the special teams are good. Maybe he's a wide receiver coach. I forget. Either way,
I think he's a wide receiver coach, I think.
Yes, he is. Thank you, Freddie. So that's a big jump in responsibility. And I don't trust Danny Dimes enough to say they'll win the division. So Giants are out of my mind. And honestly, that just means the Cowboys will win it by default. And if we're just being objective, they have a decent roster. They have one of the best two tackle combos in Collins and Smith. Martin's a all-pro right guard. Center is going to be a giant issue given Frederick's retired, and they really don't have an answer for that right now. So offensive line will be good, but I just don't know if they'll be great. But even besides that, they have a very good front seven on the defense. Lawrence, McCoy, and Powell on the defensive line. All of them rated by Pro Football Focus are above average. And then that linebacking core with Van Der Esch, if he can stay healthy, and Smith, that's a top 5 linebacking core right there. So their front seven is really good. And you can win a lot of games in the NFL by having a great front seven on the defense and a good offensive line on the other side. And that's not even mentioned the fact that their wide receivers are probably a top 10 group after they added Lamb in the draft. You got Gallup, Cooper, and Lamb. If Lamb pans out, they have potential to be a top 5 wide receiver core. So honestly, the pieces are there. And given the fact that the Eagles are basically disqualified via my logic earlier, I say this is the Cowboys division to lose. And I predict they'll win it by going, let's say, 10-6.
10-6. Freddie, your thoughts?
Brian, you might as well say this team's a Super Bowl team. I mean, you raving about them. They got this, they got that. Oh, stop it. No, I mean, let's look at this roster real quick, okay, shall we? They have Dak Prescott, who, by the way, he's playing for a new contract because the Cowboys did not trust in him to pay him this summer. So we're going to see what he's going to do. Then you have CeeDee Lamb. He think he's the next Dez Bryant, next Michael Irvin, the playmaker to wear number 88. How dare he put on number 88? I didn't think Dez Bryant should have worn.
Hey, he might
88.
just be, man.
So why shall a rookie? Yeah, but you got to prove it. Why shall some rookie walk in there fresh, wet behind the ears, breath got Similac on him? I mean, come on, stop it. And then you got Ezekiel Elliott. Are we sure he's going to be able to play over the season? I mean, there's always something with the dude. It's just always something. The dude might be in Cabo, all we know. He might not want to show up and play. And then you got Amari Cooper, which they overpaid. I mean, he's a decent receiver, but $100 million receiver? No, sir. That's not him.
Well, but to clarify on Amari Cooper is a top 3 receiver about 6 games of the year, and then a bottom tier receiver the other 10. He's wildly inconsistent. He can be the best receiver.
He's nowhere near top 3, sir.
Oh, no. he's like top 3 at like 6 games of the year and then bottom like 10 in the other ones. What I'm saying is he's vastly inconsistent, but when he's having a good game, he can play like a top 3 wide receiver. So, I mean, Pro Football Focus rates him number 9 out of all wide receivers. So he has really good games, but I do agree with you. They overpaid for him simply because he is very inconsistent and can honestly just have real stinkers every now and then. But overall, still a good wide receiver, I believe.
But Ryan, they don't. It's not matter what you do in the season. It's about what you do in the postseason. See, the Cowboys, their problem is the last 25 years, they haven't had nobody show up in the postseason. So why would you pay somebody that much money and you can't show up in the postseason? You have to show up when I need you to show up. All right, let me continue. They overpaid Zeke Elliott too, by the way. I mean, he's a good running back, but is he the best? No, he might not even be top 3. You know why I say he's not top 3? Because look, Andy, you put me behind that offensive line that they've had for the last couple of years. I mean, the dude runs. He have a hole just so wide to get through there. I mean, I wish Saquon Barkley had that hole. He had that hole. Oh my God, what would he be doing right now? And then you have Michael Gallup, another receiver. Then you have Van Der Esch. I mean, this team. Then you have Jalen Smith, DeMarcus Lawrence. This team is loaded everywhere. But like Stephen A. Smith say, it don't matter who on that roster. They will find a way. They will find a way to mess it up. It just do not get no good about the Cowboys. This team is haunted by a black cat running around their franchise until Jerry Jones say, you know what, I'm hanging it up. I'm gonna let somebody else come here and run this franchise. They will not win. So what I predict them to do this year? Yeah, the Washington football team, just like Ryan said, they're a couple of years away. The Eagles, they're good. But the question is with them, is the receiver crew going to be healthy? Because if the receiver crew would have been healthy last year, they would have been in a much different team. The New York Giants, they will be the number 1 in the NFC East. They will be number 1. And I'm going to tell you why. Yeah, we got a coach from the New England Patriots, but guess what? The Bill Belichick is the real deal. And guess what? He's been taught a few things how to win some football games. Then you have a quarterback in Danny Dimes. I mean, this dude right here is for real. I mean, the only problem that Daniel Jones had was that he kept intercepting the football. That was the only thing. He had 24 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That's pretty good. I mean, and he didn't play the full season. If he would have played the full season, he might would have had 30 touchdowns. The only problem that the dude had was the interceptions. The fumbles. That was it. Then you have the best running back in football. And Saquon Barkley. Saquon's like Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders had a baby together, and they just spit out Saquon Barkley. This dude is a beast. This dude's a freak of nature. I mean, we have not seen a dude just like this big. And then he put up the numbers with a bad offensive line. Just think about it. You put Ezekiel Elliott behind that line, could he put up the same numbers that Barkley's going to put up? We don't know because we have not seen him do it. But we've seen Barkley for 2 years in a row, and his numbers was not as good because he actually got hurt in a couple of games this year. And I said they should have sat him out for the rest of the season because I don't feel like you need to waste the season with him getting hurt even worse. But this dude is a beast. We haven't seen a running back since a good minute like him. Then you have Sterling Shepard on the outside as a wide receiver. He's a good young promising wide receiver. Then you have a stud in Evan Ingram. He's a stud tight end. I mean, he's more of a receiver, but he's playing tight end. So the New York Giants, they will be the number 1 team in the NFC East because the Dallas Cowboys, they had this basically the same team last year almost. And what happened? Dak Prescott showed that he was not that dude. When it was time for him to score, he could not score. Everybody said, well, look at his stats. Okay, let's look at his stats. I heard Troy Aikman say this, and they made a great point. The stats that he got from was at the end of the game when teams were playing prevent defense. They basically gave him what he got. The dude is not a good quarterback. This dude is not worth the money that he wants. Dak Prescott, if I was you, I would take the money they offer you and run with it because you're not worth that. The Dallas Cowboys, and they will not do good if they think they will.
There goes our dynamite moment of the day right there. Freddie picking the Giants to win the division. Hey, Freddie, there's a couple of things I got to correct in your rant there, all right? Number one, you said Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones. You said only problem he had was the interceptions. I believe
No,
it should be
fumbling,
corrected that the
fumbling.
fumble. Yeah, I believe it should be corrected to the only problem he has is he's not Dwayne Haskins, because there is no chance in hell that Daniel Jones deserved to be drafted over Dwayne Haskins. That
What?
guy's the man in the division with the real potential. Daniel Jones is turnover prone. And you know what? I'm not going to call him Danny Dimes. I'm going to call him Danny Nichols because he's always coming up short, man. Hey, let me tell you this, though. You mentioned a lot of stats about why the Cowboys can't succeed in the playoffs, that they always come short in the playoffs. And we all agree here on the set that they are the accident waiting to happen. They are, in fact, they're the accident already happening. But Ryan said 10-6, and that's a regular season record prediction. I agree with Ryan there. I think Zeke Elliott,
They
while
going
not
8-8.
hey, Zeke Elliott, while not as talented as Saquon Barkley, he's going to have something to say about it this year. Dak Prescott is in a contract year. He turned down the Cowboys offer. He's looking for more money. He's going to be highly motivated. And I think Mike McCarthy is going to be able to implement a system to take down the NFC least. You heard that, least for Eastern Division.
Are we sure he's going to be able to put it in the system? Or is it Jerry Jones going to put it in the system? We don't know that. And two, don't be disrespectful to Danny Dimes. And I mean, this dude is a stud, Mr. Steven. He's going to be better than Haskins. The day on the draft day, I was hoping they didn't draft Haskins. Because you know why? He's not that good. He won't be. Danny Dimes is better than Haskins. He's a better overall quarterback. Only thing Haskins can do better than Danny Dimes is run the football.
All right, I'm going to let Ryan respond to that.
You say Daniel Jones' only problem is that he fumbles the ball or intercepts it. That's like saying a wide receiver is good. It's just that he can't really catch the ball. If you're turning the ball over at a high rate, you're not going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Just look at Jameis Winston. At this point, you guys are grooming the next Jameis Winston. I would say he's going to throw a lot of interceptions or have a lot of turnovers. That's why I think Danny Dimes' future is a Jameis Winston without all the passing yards.
You can't judge him off of a rookie year. I mean, it's a rookie year. All rookies have something to learn. He can fix that easy. Come on now.
He could, but I just don't know if he's going to. If he improves it, then I will be proven wrong, and I will openly admit it. But that's not the main reason I think the New York Giants are not going to be good. The reason they're not going to be good is because you have a second-year quarterback behind a just trash offensive line. You have a rookie coming in that you hope is going to be really good. But outside of that, your tackle, left guard, and center all grade very below average, according to Pro Football Focus. And outside of that, the defensive line is good. Don't get me wrong. I really like the Giants' defensive line. But if you go to the linebacking core and the secondary, oh my Lord. Yes, a defensive line is really good, and that's the key thing to have a defense. But your secondary has to be at least like top 20 in the league. The Giants' secondary this year is going to be bad. The cornerbacks are not good right now. Their linebacking core is below average by any way you can look at it. And their safety combination, Peppers, is trash. When the Browns traded him away, I was ecstatic because he's not a good football player. And then free safety, not much better. So I just don't trust the Giants defense to stop people, even though they have a good defensive line. So yeah, I just don't trust the defense enough, and the offensive line is just trash. So
you got to realize that defense is young defense. We drafted for the line just in the draft, so we've corrected those problems, and we're going to show the world that the Giants is going to be better than the Dallas Cowboys. And I hope that you own this show when we make it to the playoffs over the Dallas Cowboys. Because I'm gonna write this show down. I'm gonna write it down, and I'm gonna bring it back up to you guys. And I'm gonna say I told you so.
And I will admit I'm wrong. But I have a sneaking suspicion I'm not going to have to, because I do not trust this New York Giants with a first-year head coach and a wide receiver coach who was a wide receiver coach the year before. So I have a sneaking suspicion I won't have to. And before we move on from this topic, I just have to say I agree with you that the Cowboys are going to be trash in the postseason. But that's the thing. This is the regular season. They've had a couple years here and there in the past 5 years where they're really good in the regular season and lose in the postseason. And that's all this year is going to be. They're going to, by default, win this division, which has been one of the worst in the NFL year after year after year, or for most years. There's a couple years where they're good. But yeah, they'll do good in the regular season and then choke come playoff time. I agree with you on that front. The Dallas Cowboys will choke in the end.
All right, guys.
You say they going 10-6. I say they going 8-8.
All right, so we got a final prediction right there. All right, so yeah, you know what, Freddie? If you are right on the Giants winning the division, I will come onto this show and I will play "Bow Down" as a sound effect, and I will bow down to you for being right. You have that live on broadcast. I will pay up if the Giants win the division whenever this NFL season continues. So before we move on to our next topic, we do have some game breaks, and definitely a segment I'd like to integrate more now that we got live sports back. I wish we had a sound effect for this, like some kind of siren. But Shree in the comments section, thank you for reminding me, Shree. Right now, the Jackets are headed to 5 overtimes with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It is currently tied at 2-2.
They just lost.
They just lost. Okay.
Blue Jackets have lost,
unfortunately. The Jackets have lost in 5 overtimes to the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-2.
What a game.
NBA game break, guys. The Portland Trailblazers managed to close it out against Luka Doncic and the Mavericks, 134-131. We're definitely going to be having that as a topic next week. Who would you rather have, Luka Doncic or Damian Lillard? And with that being said, Dame time. As for sure, man, Dame time. But let's go back to the NFL now that we got the game breaks out there. Again, I got to get a siren sound effect ready for this one next time. But now we're going to transition to another NFC team, which has had a bit more success. They have won 1 Super Bowl under Aaron Rodgers. But they've been unable to capture another title. So the question is, have the Green Bay Packers been a letdown with Aaron Rodgers? And who is to blame for this situation in Green Bay?
Ryan, the floor is all yours, Freddie.
Oh, no, I definitely want you to go first.
All right, so my reaction is, honestly, it is so difficult to win the Super Bowl, and especially in an era where the Patriots dynasty existed. The Patriots have been hogging up all the Super Bowls over the last few years, and it was hard to win a Super Bowl regardless. So if Aaron Rodgers only wins 1 Super Bowl with Green Bay, yes, it'll be a slight disappointment, but it's not like it's the end of the world. Just because, I mean, Drew Brees only has 1 Super Bowl. Peyton Manning only had, he had 2 Super Bowls, but let's be real. He didn't really contribute to that last one. That was basically the defense carrying him on crutches into his retirement, but I digress. But if I had to give a reason for why the Green Bay Packers have only won 1 Super Bowl under Aaron Rodgers, up until the last 2 or 3 years when I believe Aaron Rodgers' production has taken a dip, it's just been Green Bay's conservative nature and their lack of aggressiveness, free agency in the draft. And it shows just by their rankings on the defensive end. Every single year outside that Super Bowl win where they had the second best defense in terms of points allowed, they have never been above average. Their highest ranking in that time was, I believe, 11th or 13th up until this past year where they were 9th. So honestly, I think Aaron Rodgers, up until the last couple of years, did his part because the offenses that he led were almost always top 10. Aaron Rodgers was one of the greatest quarterbacks in the league, and we've heard this a lot, is one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time. Not one of the greatest. I definitely think he's outside the top 5 and maybe borderline top 10.
Oh, come on, Ryan.
Of all time, top 5, he's out of that conversation. Come on, man.
All right, list me 5 quarterbacks. Come on, man. Let's go.
Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Joe Montana, and John Elway, I think.
All right, yeah, that's fair then. Yeah, I put him right outside the top 5 then, but
Heck no. Drew Brees?
Oh, absolutely, Drew Brees.
longevity-wise, Breeze got him beat
I'll
though.
say the man has thrown for like 7 5,000-yard seasons. That's like more than everyone else combined, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Freddie, you want to go next on this, or should I take point?
But hold on,
I
to
want to
wrap
go
up
next.
my point real quick before Freddie goes. I think Aaron Rodgers has done his part, and it was mainly the defense. It was mainly the fault of Green Bay not putting a good defense together around him. Because you need a good defense to win the Super Bowl. You don't have to have an all-time great one, but you still need a top 10 defense, in my opinion, to win the Super Bowl. But that was until the last couple years. In the last couple years, I do think you can put some of the onus on Aaron Rodgers, especially this past year where he was mostly healthy. I mean, I just did not like Aaron Rodgers at all this past year. The defense was pretty good, albeit in the playoff game they lost, they got just absolutely destroyed. But even then, Aaron Rodgers did them no favors in that playoff game. He just became an average quarterback this year that had to rely on a great running game for them to squeak out the tiniest of margins versus below average teams. So this past year, Aaron Rodgers is, I believe I have him ranked 12th, I want to say, in my 32 ranked quarterbacks. So if blame's to be put, it's on the Green Bay organization up until the last couple years. And then I'd probably say you could put a good amount of the blame on Aaron Rodgers.
That's a sizzling hot take, Ryan. Freddie, you look a little bit discombobulated by Ryan's words. Care to respond real quick?
Oh my goodness. Like, where do you get this? Where do you get this garbage you just said? I mean, like, really, honestly, there's no blame on Aaron Rodgers. Like Stephen A. said, he's a bad man. And Aaron Rodgers. I've never seen a quarterback. My question: who better, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Ryan?
Oh, Tom Brady, no doubts.
Oh, please. All right.
And like I said, I blame the organization up until the last couple years. My argument is that his production has taken a dip in the last 2 to 3 years to where he's no longer a top 5 or even a top 10 quarterback. And since that's the case, some blame can be put on him, especially because the Green Bay Packers defense this year, for all intents and purposes, was a top 10 defense. So I think just these past couple years, some blame can be put on Aaron Rodgers. But before that, it's definitely on the organization for not giving him a good defense to help him win Super Bowls.
Well, you can't say last couple of years because he did get hurt, and you can't help the injury. But did you know the last 8 to 9 years this dude have not had double-digit interceptions? Let's look at the stats. In 2019, the year that you said was just so horrible, the blame on Aaron Rodgers, he still threw for 4,000 yards. He had 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Okay, that's elite numbers to me. His QBR was ranked 95.4. In 2018, he had 4,442 yards, 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. 2017, this is the year he got hurt, threw over 1,500 yards, only had 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. In 2016, 4,428 yards, 40 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. I don't think I need to go any further. This dude, we have not seen a talent at this quarterback position since, I will say, Patrick Mahomes, but this dude is just a stud. I mean, if you want a quarterback that can do everything, I mean, you give you a long, he's a long threat. He can run, he can hit, he's short pass, he can do it all. I mean, this dude has been carrying the Green Bay Packers on his back for years. The reason why he didn't look as good, name me 2 wide receivers that is good. He had was Devontae Adams was his number 1 threat. Other than that, that was it. Jimmy Graham, he's old. All the other wide receivers, he's young. I mean, come on, this dude does not have nobody to throw the ball to. So who is it to blame? It's the Green Bay Packers to blame. I mean, this is a franchise ever since he's been the quarterback there. in the first round, they have not drafted a skills player. They have not drafted a skills player. This was the first year, and they drafted a quarterback. How disrespectful that is. You draft a quarterback, and you have Aaron freaking Rodgers as your quarterback. You don't need nobody else. You have the baddest man alive in Aaron Rodgers. And if I was him, I'm trying to get out of Green Bay. You trying to be like the next Patrick Mahomes. He should be the next Tom Brady. He should be winning 6 Super Bowls. I guarantee if you would have switched Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, put Aaron Rodgers on the New England Patriots, they would have won more than 6 Super Bowls. Because guess what? Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady. I'm talking about skill-wise. Tom Brady wish he was on the level of Aaron Rodgers because he's a bad man that he is.
Man, what a wild fan response by Freddie here. And Freddie, you bring up a good point, man. You really do. In that Aaron Rodgers, he is a pretty elite level quarterback, man. The thing is, until Patrick Mahomes arrived in the league, Aaron Rodgers was widely regarded as the most talented quarterback in the NFL. It wasn't until Patrick Mahomes that Aaron Rodgers started to look a little bit old, a little bit archaic. But that's just speaks to the incredible nature of Mahomes more than it speaks to necessarily the decline of Rodgers. Now, has Rodgers declined? Yeah, you look at his numbers, and I'm glad you brought up the TD to interception ratios, man. Over 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. However, his ratings across the boards were worse than my guy Kirk Cousins on the Vikings. So,
but Steven, you give this dude threat. Kirk Cousins have offensive weapons. Aaron Rodgers doesn't. You give this dude.
You got
weapons,
Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams.
Okay, and who else? Who did Kirk Cousins have? He have Thielen. He have Cooks. I mean, at one point he had Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, he had Diggs.
So you give Aaron Rodgers this many threats. He'll do the same thing.
Yeah, before we get to
here's
Ryan.
the thing. Oh, I just want to say, yes, Aaron Rodgers may not have a great wide receiver number 2 or 3, but guess what? He has a top 6 wide receiver in Devontae Adams as his number 1 go-to guy, top running back in the league in Aaron Jones, and a top 5 offensive line by any metric. If I was a quarterback, I'd take a top 5 offensive line and a mediocre wide receiver core versus the opposite of that. Having that good of an offensive line is a blessing. It can mask for not having an elite wide receiver core, because if you can stand back there for 3.5 seconds as opposed to 2 seconds, these lesser talented guys can't get open. So I think Green Bay this year gave him plenty of weapons in a great running game, a great offensive line, and a great number 1 wide receiver. Honestly, Ryan, he cannot complain about if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I cannot complain about the weapons I get. And yes, I understand they haven't drafted a skill position, but again, all that's forgiven if you give me a top 5 offensive line. He probably has the best 2-tackle combination in football, hands down.
Ryan, but they're not catching the football, okay? You're missing the point. Steven, you want to bring up the Vikings. They have Dalvin Cook. They have Adam Thielen. They have Kyle Rudolph. They had Diggs last year. They have weapons, okay? Let's not act like Kirk Cousins is nowhere near the Aaron Rodgers shoes. I don't want you to
he's closing in nowadays.
That's disrespectful. And for one, and Ron, you did recognize who won the Super Bowl, right? It was the Chiefs. And what did Patrick Mahomes have to his disposal, my friend? He had weapons.
Best
Aaron
weapons in the universe.
He don't have those weapons. Guess what? If Green Bay would have called an Antonio Brown and said, you know what, come over here to Green Bay with Adams, oh my gosh, he would have showed out then. You got to give these quarterbacks weapons. You see, you don't talk about if he that great, why he need weapons. Look at Tom Brady. He needs weapons too. Now, don't we? Look, we've seen what happened without a lack of weapons and New England had this year when
Gronk went into retirement.
Exactly. When that wide receiver Edelman was the only one there. We seen what happened, and guess what? Everybody say Tom Brady to go. What happened? He didn't have weapons.
Tom Brady's 43.
There's no excuses, but y'all still call him to go. If you were to go, you still can get the job done.
Aaron Rodgers is going to be retired by the time he's 41 if he keeps this decline up. And yes, Aaron Rodgers has shown a decline, and I have the numbers to prove it. Passer rating when he was under pressure. I judge a quarterback based off key statistics because a lot of quarterbacks could do really good when they're in a clean pocket. But show me how you do when you're under pressure, when you're blitzed in the red zone. And when I look at the stats for Aaron Rodgers, he ranks 13th in passer rating under pressure. In passer rating when blitzed, he ranks about 13th as well. In the red zone, he ranks, let's see here, he ranks 10th. And yes, these are pretty good, but this leads to my conclusion that this year he was a top 12 player versus a top 12 quarterback. The stats show that he is not this elite quarterback. And yes, he didn't have the greatest wide receiver core, but he had Adams in a top 5 NFL offensive line. That is a luxury.
Okay, Ryan, you say he's top 12 name. I own 12 quarterbacks is better than Aaron Rodgers right now. Let's go.
Ryan,
Let me
I think
pull
we
up
lost
that
your
list.
sound for a second.
Oh, yes, I'm pulling up that list. Steve, you want to give your quick take? I'm going to pull up the list of quarterbacks I have
Please
above
do.
Aaron
I'm ready
Yes,
for
sir.
this one.
All right, so my quick take is this. Ryan and you, Freddie, you guys both got amazing points as to who the blame is on. Overall, the blame's on the Packers, man. Aaron Rodgers, two words. Defense and running back. Aaron Rodgers has not had a good defense or a good running back during the peak of his prime. Yeah, you can talk about now, Ryan, but I'm talking about back in 2012, 2014, 2015, all those years. Aaron Rodgers had a lagging running back, a lagging defense, and a lagging offensive line. And now he has it, right? But he's already been beaten to a pulp. And this is one thing that I got to add is that we got to remember that Aaron Rodgers was viewed as the most talented quarterback in this league up until Patrick Mahomes started peaking. You can maybe argue Russell Wilson, but even when Russell Wilson started to come up, people were still consistently ranking Aaron Rodgers as the most physically talented quarterback in the NFL, man.
And like I said, I blame the Packers for during Aaron Rodgers' prime years. I'm only putting a slight amount of the blame on Aaron Rodgers the last couple years. And even then, I think 2 years ago, as Freddie pointed out, it was because of injury. And I don't blame injury. I guess mainly my point is Packers all the way up until last year. I'll revise it till
I want to know
last
who
year.
these 12
Last
quarterbacks
year,
are.
last year is the only year I'll put some blame on Aaron Rodgers.
All
but
right.
yes, I just pull up the list.
Pull up the list of the 12 quarterbacks, and then we'll move on to our NBA topics.
All right,
I'm
so
ready.
Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Drew Brees, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, and Carson Wentz put in Aaron Rodgers at 12. Yes, Derek Carr.
Matthew Stafford?
Matthew Stafford's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. The stats don't lie.
Man, stop it, man. Let's go to NBA, man. There's no debate in this conversation. I mean,
Hey.
I thought he was gonna be realistic. He over here talking about some Matthew Stafford. Oh, that's next conversation. Woo! Oh man, almost made me laugh.
You'll be
Oh,
laughing
man.
when the Lions are winning that division and making the postseason this year with Matthew Stafford leading the way. You'll be laughing then.
Man, we got some
man.
hot takes, Fire. I'm telling you, we got to get a siren sound effect ready for this show. But yeah, for me, Ryan, I think you take out Tannehill, Stafford, and Carr out of that list. I think Rodgers is definitively a top 10 quarterback. But we'll move on to the next topic now. We're talking NBA right now. Yeah,
Real quick.
yeah,
Can I get my top 5 real quick?
yes.
Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Aaron Rodgers, number 2. Because
Oh,
Lamar Jackson can't throw like Aaron Rodgers. Then Lamar Jackson. Then Drew Brees. Then Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, number 5? Are you kidding
Number
me?
5. Number 5.
Okay, I may have a hot take for Aaron Rodgers at 12, but putting Russell Wilson at 5 is way more of a hotter take. That's all I have to say on that.
Oh, they're
Number
pretty
5.
close, Ryan. I'll tell you that. But before we move on to our next topic of NBA, when it comes to the NFL poll question, will we have an NFL season, guys? Quick drum roll. 56% say there will be no NFL season. 44% saying yes. And we'll have another poll up for you guys shortly. But let's get into our NBA topic. I wanted to open up with the Lakers, but with the recent turn of events, Tree reminded me to check the score updates. The Dallas Mavericks end up blowing the lead to the Blazers. And now this is how the conference standings look. The Mavericks are the 7th seed, locked fully into that. The Blazers are the 8th seed currently, and the Grizzlies and the Suns at 9 and 10. I believe the Grizzlies have that tiebreaker over the Suns. So, guys, the Suns no longer control their own destiny despite being 7-0 in the bubble. And Isaiah, I see you commenting out there. How about my guy Devin Booker? He is a bad man, but he's going to need help to get to the playoffs. So the question for you guys is, do the Phoenix Suns reach the playoffs? Yes or no?
No, because you have a dude named Damian Lillard taking over. He's being that dude.
Man.
Game time, Dame time.
I just want to say this. Why do Suns fans want to make the playoffs? Do you just want to see your team lose 4 times in a row to the Lakers? Because that's the prize. That's the prize at the end of all this. Playing 4 or 5 games versus LeBron, Anthony Davis, and the Lakers, and then going home. And you get left out of the lottery. This prize is nothing to chase. I mean, I really don't see the purpose Suns fans have of wanting the 8th seed. In fact, all they've done in this bubble is just blow their tank. All they've done is just destroy their lottery seedings. And honestly, this is probably the worst thing that could have happened to the Suns, because now they're not only are they going to miss the postseason, because I agree with you guys, Damian Lillard and the Trailblazers will make it. Now they're going to have a worse draft pick. So honestly, this bubble has been a disaster for the Suns, in my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously the Suns have one more game left. And Ryan, I agree with you there, but I think you have to look at the sentiment, man. They come all the way here to the NBA bubble. They brought all their star players in Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and to an extent, Ricky Rubio has been good for them. They brought all their best players to the bubble. Nobody sat out. Nobody said, we're canceling our season. Everybody came out to play. I think now that you've made all this effort to get into the bubble, man, it's tough to just give up on the season like that. And they are close, man. They are the hottest team in the bubble right now. Devin Booker is just putting on a show, man. And I'll disagree with you on one thing. They're not competing.
Well, they get cooled down.
They're not competing to get swept by the Lakers. They're competing to raise the didn't get swept banner in their stadium next season when they claim one game over the Lakers, because I believe the Lakers, which we'll get into later, are rusty enough to lose about one game to whoever gets to that 8th seed.
Okay, so let's say they make the playoffs, and let's say
not to the Phoenix Suns.
Let's say
I think they'll lose one game, man, to the Suns right now.
Okay, let's say in
one
this
game out of 5. Come on.
Let's say in this fairy tale land, the Suns not only make the postseason, but that they beat the Lakers one time. All that's going to do is give Suns fans a false hope, and they'll be absolutely devastated when the team wins only like 35 to 36 games next year. That's just how the Phoenix Suns roll. I'm not hating. This is just facts.
All right,
Devin Booker's good. Devin Booker's good, but he can't beat LeBron. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, before we move into the Lakers, a couple of quick standings updates. The Grizzlies will face off at home. They're all playing in Disney World, but they're listed as officially at home against the Bucks on Thursday. They are essentially a half game up on the Suns because they have the tiebreaker over the Suns, and the Suns will face the Dallas Mavericks. So here's the situation. If the Suns beat the Mavericks and the Grizzlies lose to the Bucks, that is Phoenix's way into the 9th seed. They would then have to beat Portland 2 times in a row to claim the 8th seed and the rights to play the Los Angeles Lakers. Question for you guys. Do the Suns even get the 9th seed to be able to play in for the 8th seed?
Honestly, it's up in the air because I don't see the Bucks playing their stars. I don't see Dallas playing their stars. They're already in the playoffs. So, I mean, it's just whoever played the best their game. I mean, I don't know. I go with the Suns because I think Memphis is hurt because of their power forward got hurt. So I go with Phoenix. 'Cause I don't see other teams playing Giannis. I don't see them playing Luka and Porzingis. So yeah.
Ryan, how do you see the situation for the ninth seed playing out?
I completely agree with Freddie. A lot of teams are going to start resting their starters. So honestly, who knows? I just have to say this. If the Suns do get the ninth seed, one, they're not beating the Trailblazers twice. And two, they won't beat the Lakers. So again, just kind of pointless.
Okay, so we move into our next topic, guys. Poll question still active. The question is, will the Phoenix Suns make the playoffs? Yes or no? I agree with you guys on the topic, though. I do think the Blazers have more firepower. Damian Lillard is just a greater version of Devin Booker when it comes to scoring in terms of clutch ability. I know Booker's 7-0 in the bubble, but man, Lillard, that guy is a bad man, and he's a polished bad man. So I will take him all day in a series against Devin Booker, especially when you got another deadly shooter in CJ McCollum. Cannot underestimate that guy. Last thing I'll pull up is a statistic. Martin showing that Damian Lillard scored most of the closing points against the Mavericks. It was all Dame and CJ. Dame free throw, Dame free throw, Dame free throw 5 times over. Then he had a 3. Then he had 2 more free throws. He had an assist to Melo. He had a 2 somewhere. He scored about 90% of the possessions for the Blazers down the stretch. So
He's gonna have to do that too.
in the fourth quarter too, man, he is a bad man and he's polished. So I'll take him over an unpolished Booker. So moving on to the next topic. Right now, the Lakers recently won against the Nuggets. But before their win against the Nuggets, they dropped 3 straight games to teams like the Thunder, to the Rockets, to the Pacers. So I will start with you first, Freddie, because you are the big Lakers fan in the room. Are the Lakers in panic mode? Should we be concerned about the Lakers? And the second question is there a double standard when it comes to assessing the Lakers and the Clippers?
Steven, I'm gonna just ask you a question. Is there a dude named LeBron James still on that team?
Yes, sir. There's LeBron James on the team.
All right, I'm not worried at all. LeBron James on the team. He's the ultimate leader of the team. Guess what? He said, you know what? We didn't clinch the first seed. Why do we have to go out there and try our hardest? We're not going to go out there and risk injury. We already lost on Avery Bradley. Rondo's out for injury, so why should we go out there and risk our bodies to get hurt? For one. The other night was a good sign to see. I love that they threw the last possession to Kyle Kuzma for him to win the game-winning shot. That built confidence in him. So, I knew, just like Shaq said one day last week, he said the Lakers are going last night was probably the last night we'll see Anthony Davis and LeBron James before the playoffs. He said the last game that they play, they will turn it up, they'll start shooting the ball much better, and they'll be okay. That's what veterans can do. Honestly, this team right now does not put no worry in me because when Rondo come back, the bench will be better. The second unit is just waiting for a leader who can orchestrate the offense. And playoff Rondo's for real. Believe that. Playoff Rondo
Yes, sir.
is for real. So when he come back sometime during the first round or after the first round, he'll be a key pickup. Now the second question. Is there a double standard? I'm getting so sick and tired. I'm getting so sick and tired of turning on the morning sports shows every morning. All you hear is, oh, the Lakers in trouble. The Lakers in trouble. They got beat by Denver's second unit. You hear that. You didn't hear none of this when the Clippers lost to the Brooklyn Nets the other day. I didn't hear none of that. I need to hear keep the same energy when you're talking about my Lakers, when you're talking about the Clippers. That's all I ask. They act like Kawhi Leonard, he's just the greatest player of all time. Stop it. He's not better than LeBron. Matter of fact, last year he got assisted in the championship. Because if Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson would have played, the Golden State Warriors would have swept the Toronto Raptors. That's the breaks. I want to hear the same thing. I want to hear keep the same energy for both teams. Both teams have not looked good in the bubble. And you know why? It's not because they're lacking them not being able to play. It's just because they didn't already go into the playoffs. Why go out there and play hard? So keep the same energy when you're talking about both teams. We all know the the Lakers always held to another standard because we're the Lakers. We have 16 championships. That's what we do. They always make an excuse. And if we win a championship, there's gonna be another excuse everybody making. I don't want to hear it.
Freddie Cooper hitting us with the keep that same energy. I love that energy, Freddie, because you certainly keeping the same energy for the Clippers. I'll go to Ryan now, who is a longtime Cleveland sports fan, big time LeBron fan. Ryan, should the Lakers be concerned with this regular season performance? And is there a double standard when it comes to assessing the Lakers and that other team in Staples, the Clippers?
So as Steven said, I am a Cleveland and a LeBron fan. And as a Cleveland and a LeBron fan, I know that regular season doesn't mean anything when it comes to LeBron James. Have you seen how the Cavs performed some of the regular seasons leading up to the playoffs, and then they were just fine come playoff time? That's what's happening here because, as Freddie said, they clinched the first seed. Why would you put yourself out there for injury? Why try your hardest? So honestly, the Lakers are going to be fine come playoff time because we've seen this same song and dance before. LeBron's team doesn't play particularly well towards the end of the regular season because they're resting up with eyes to the postseason. When the postseason comes around, they're normally just fine and they go right to the finals. And yes, the Lakers will look much better and look like a much different team come playoff time. So I'm not worried about the Lakers at all. Although the Clippers are a very good team, so I cannot wait for that conference finals, Clippers versus Lakers. It's going to be a good one.
Yes,
and then
sir.
number two,
yeah,
their double standard. Yes, there is, because the Clippers have had a built-in excuse all year, and that's their team cannot stay healthy, or there's something that always happens to where the team can never play at full strength. We've seen this all year. Someone's always hurt. Or in the case of the bubble, Patrick Beverly, Montrezl Harris had to leave the bubble. Lou Williams had to leave the bubble and get quarantined on the way back in. So they've always.
Hey. And when he left the bubble, he had to go get him some wings. Lou Williams.
But yes, so honestly, they just had that built-in excuse all year. There's always something happening. So honestly, I contributed more to that, and that they're just never healthy, they've never at full strength. So there's always that built-in excuse, which has carried them all year. I just have to say this: they better win the championship, because all I'm hearing is, oh, the Clippers will be so good once they're at full strength. Once they get everyone back, they're going to be, this great team. Once Kawhi Leonard stops resting every other third or fourth game, they're going to be so good. So with all this talk, I'm just going to say the Clippers better be good. I know they're a very good team. They just better show up come playoff time, because I've heard this same excuse all year long. So let's see come playoff time.
They won't. Okay, so my quick response to everything, I totally agree with Freddie and Ryan. It's about keeping that same energy. But I'll tell you one thing about keeping the same energy. LeBron, the King James, certainly does not keep the same energy between the regular season and the postseason. And we've seen it again and again, man. Those Cleveland teams, those Miami teams later on down the line, they didn't care that much about the regular season. And one big fact that people got to remember is the Lakers already have the number one seed. So it's not like they're just all of a sudden out there being sorry for no good reason. It's because they're resting players. They're resting LeBron and Anthony Davis periodically because they've locked out the number one seed and the rights to play the worst playoff team in the first round and then have an advantage in the second round as well. They have an easy pathway to the Western Conference Finals already laid out for them. So why would they go out there and put their bodies on the line for regular season games? We've seen LeBron teams not even care about seeding, not even care about the number one seed before. We've seen it in the Cleveland Cavaliers the year after they won the chip. What did they do to the IT Celtics? Oh, they became the Monstars. They almost swept them. Celtics, they had to raise their own, didn't get swept banner. All right. In 2018, LeBron James, George Hill, obviously that whole team unloaded from IT to Wade. He went to George Hill and over to Jordan Clarkson. What'd that team do? Oh, they only got the fourth seed. No problem. All they did was sweep the number one seed Toronto Raptors. We've seen this movie play again and again, man. People talking about this guy's the best player in the world. I don't know, man. Jackson Barner might be the best player in the world. Average Joe might be the best player in the world. What does LeBron do? Every time it goes to the playoffs, he starts sweeping teams. He starts hitting buzzer beaters. He starts putting up monstrous Game 7 performances. Until I see it in the playoffs, Giannis, until I see it's the playoffs, Kawhi head-to-head, you guys do not have a claim to the best team in the world. When it comes to double standard, man, absolutely. Because what did the Clippers do? All they do is fall short. They're like a lesser version of the Cowboys the past few years. All right? The accident waiting for it to happen. All they do is fall short. And all the Lakers and LeBron do is go to finals and win championships. So, of course, there's a double standard.
Now, I will say this, and I hope LeBron's watching this show. There's a lot of pressure on him while he's in LA. He don't want to be the only superstar. Not a championship. Superstar outside of Elgin Baylor, and he would have won it, but he retired the year they won to not deliver a championship. He got to deliver, and if he don't, oh my. Oh my. You thought Miami fans were bad. You thought Cleveland fans were bad. We in LA, we believe in putting on that job. So.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of pressure on LeBron. I will say this final point, though, before we get into our next and final topic. First of all, when it comes to regular season games, for the most part, LeBron doesn't care. But there are always a few regular season games where he seems to take exception. Games against teams like the Warriors when they had all their guys healthy with Clay and Steph and Draymond. Games against the Spurs or against the Mavericks after they beat LeBron in the finals, right? In the games where LeBron actually faces a good team, those regular season statement games, we see him go full effort and win the game. What did the Lakers do? They beat the Clippers in the bubble. So I don't want to hear nothing about making excuses for the Clippers and none for the Lakers when the Lakers beat them. LeBron locked down Kawhi Leonard at the end of the game. He did his job and they won the game. All right. Moving on to the next topic. But before we do, we got our results for the Suns poll. The answer is no. 100% of respondents said the Suns will not make the playoffs. So sorry, Isaiah, you will not be eating Devin Booker cake this time next week.
Isaiah, you didn't vote?
Oh man, he
must not have.
What's to do with that, Isaiah?
He's out there playing baseball right now, but it didn't matter. It was by a wide margin.
I'm glad to hear our viewers are, very smart people. 100%. I'm impressed. Good job, everyone.
Hey, you won't find as many hot take artists out there that are as hot with their takes as Isaiah Young. But let's move on to our final topic here. The 76ers losing by 13 to the Suns today. They've been losing quite a few games in the bubble. They started off to a 3-4 win start, but recently they've collapsed. They've lost 2 games back-to-back. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons are out. There's no timetable for their return. Are the Sixers done, guys?
Actually, they're not. And they shouldn't be done. Adrian Wojnarowski, how do you say his name, reported that Joel Embiid should be back in the next couple of days. And honestly, you don't have Ben Simmons. That's one of your key points. I understand that, okay? This team's still going to the playoffs. Joel Embiid is still a superstar. I mean, dude, you're 7 feet tall. You got a post-up game. You got a mid-range game. You can shoot free throws. You can shoot threes. I need you to be aggressive when you get back. I need you to show the world why you're that dog. Show them why you're Joel Embiid. Show them why they should trade Ben Simmons and not you. Show them why you can still lead this team to at least be competitive. You still got Tobias Harris. You still got Josh Richardson. You still got Al Horford. You still got a team around you. We need to see you show up. This is your time. This is your chance. Do it. No more excuses. It's over. Let's go. So we about to that honestly, the numbers show that this team is better with Joel Embiid played by himself. So we should see him be able to step up, show the world who he is, and dominate. That's if he's healthy. If he's hurt, I understand that. But if he's healthy, we need to see that.
Yeah, you know what? Even if they get Embiid back Freddie, they don't have Simmons. We don't know when Simmons is going to come back. And you look at the seeding over here, the Celtics have locked up that number 3 seed. And I believe the Sixers aren't going to be able to win out their schedule and overtake the Pacers for that 5th seed. So in the first round, they would match up against the Celtics. Right now, I think the Celtics are just so much of the better team. They've got so much more momentum on their side. Initially, I picked the Sixers to force a game 7 against the Celtics. I don't think they're going to be competitive in this series if they can't have Simmons back, and especially with the loss of their momentum. I think they're losing.
I didn't say they had to win. I just want to see him be aggressive.
I don't think they're even
who he is.
I don't think they will be aggressive, Freddie. I think they're going to lose in 5 games to the Celtics as it stands, and they just got no momentum going for them, man. The other day when Embiid went out, yeah, Embiid's important to the team, right? But the one thing is, he's not the fastest player out there. He can't stretch the floor like a lot of other players in the league. And frankly, he slows down that Sixers offense. So with Embiid or without Embiid, I see the Celtics winning in 5 games. Ryan.
I have done a bunch of elegant research on the 76ers, and here are my findings. I have determined that the 76ers are trash, waste, litter, garbage, debris, junk, sweep-ins, remains. Yes, these are synonyms for trash, but wait, there's more. They're also soft, mushy, slushy, sloppy, squishy, doughy, synonyms for soft. This team is trash. With Embiid, with Simmons, without either of them, it doesn't matter. All this team does is talk. Oh, the process. The process. I've been hearing that for almost a decade, it feels like. And now that the process is complete, the process yielded a team that's talented, but is incredibly soft. And all they do is talk about how, oh, we're going to be much more aggressive. We're not going to be soft anymore. But then goes out and does the same exact thing. This team is so mentally weak that they can be one of the best teams in the NBA at home, but then also go on the road and have one of the worst records in the NBA. The difference between their home and their road record is talent. It just shows how mentally weak they are, that if they're not in their home place, they just completely collapse. So yes, my point on the 76ers is they're terrible, even if they had Simmons. Regardless if they had Simmons or not, they play the Celtics and they would lose in 4 games. They are not going to win 1 game versus the Celtics. I don't care if Embiid scores 40 points a game. They'll still find some way to lose in 4 games to the Celtics because this team has no shooting. There's 2 star players can just don't mesh with each other at all. This team honestly annoys me, and it took a lot for me to come to this because I love the city of Philadelphia. That's where my mom is from. I'm a fan of the Eagles. So for me to hate the 76ers, it has to be well earned. Charles Barkley once called the 76ers the Browns of the NBA. And honestly, that can't be more true in terms of just having talented players, but just not getting it done. In terms of the NBA, they are the Browns. I completely agree with Charles Barkley on that point.
All right. Any final thoughts on this topic, guys?
It's pretty funny.
Man. Yeah, that was I think it'd be tough to top that take right there, Ryan. Well done, man. The city of Cleveland thanks you.
I'll say, and my final point before we wrap up is just this. I've heard very few reports, but some reports nonetheless, that Cleveland is wanting to trade for Ben Simmons. I've said this to this group before the show. If Cleveland trades away multiple first-round picks and a majority of the roster for Ben Simmons, I'm done being a Cavs fan. I can tough out being a Browns fan, but if the Cavs make a move that stupid and sacrifice their future for Ben Simmons, one of the most overrated players in the league, I can't do it. I won't do it, in fact.
I got one thing. LeBron wants you. Come to LA. Everybody likes the sunshine. Everybody likes the palm trees. Everybody likes the beach. Everybody likes the Staples Center. Come on up here. Come on
I'll say
over here, purple and gold.
if the Cavs get or the Cavs trade for Ben Simmons and they give up a lot to do so, then I'll hit free agency and we'll see which team I land on.
All right, guys. This has been another episode of Fan Response. We had Freddie Fontana Cooper joining us today. Man, thank you so much for being a guest on this show, Freddie. It was super entertaining, man. Love to hear your takes. You and Ryan clashing throughout the day, man. This has been probably one of the best episodes of Fan Response we had out here.
Yes, sir. Glad to be on the show and glad we was able to bring the heat. Nice talking to you guys.
All right. Any final thoughts from you, Ryan?
I just want to say thank you, Freddie, for coming on. It was a pleasure discussing Aaron Rodgers with you, even though our takes are very drastically different. It was a fun conversation. I love having you on.
The next time I come on the show, we're going to have a part 2 on that discussion.
Oh, I'm up for continuing this talk any day.
We are always game to discuss more of that discount double check, guys. And that's from a Vikings fan. All right, guys. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show, guys, and let you enjoy your Tuesday evening. Thank you guys for tuning in, voting in the polls, and good night, everyone.
Yes, sir.
No expression. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad